What's up, Bills fans? You guys asked for another video, so here I am. Oh, you obviously probably already know I'm pretty disgusted at the fact that Jauron's coming back, but I am a Bills fan, and it's the team I root for, and there's really no other way around that. Otherwise, knowing that Jauron's coming back is pretty dejecting. The only things that you can hope for is that Edwards can steady his play and become more consistent over the long haul of the season, stay healthy, and Jauron is put in as few positions as possible where he has to make critical decisions during a game. Um, the deficiencies are obvious, the ability to make adjustments within the game, the ability to make big decisions and in a timely fashion. I mean, we were sold again on this continuity crap. If continuity was so important, you still can't get plays in week 17 of the NFL season. You still you can't make just simple decisions. Can't get plays in on time. Can't you're still playing for field goals and meaningless games. You're down on the 4 or 5 yard line. You're not throwing to the end zone. You're talking about kicking a field goal. You try a field goal in a 46-yarder and however many mile-an-hour wind, just stick Jauron for you, and you just have to hope that he's put in as few positions as possible. And I think the only way that can happen is if the team just hopefully can play lights out next year, and that's a big hope. That is a really big hope, because there's so many needs in the team. And it's not that there's so many needs, it's just they're the same needs every year. The same needs, and they're still not addressed. And obviously Jauron is an issue, but Tom Modrak, John Guy, these are the guys who are bringing in these players. And it's some of the decisions that they make is still head scratching. The drafts that they've had, Donahoe's gone, but he might as well still be there because those are his guys. Those are Modrak and Guy. Those are his hires, and they're still making the decisions. Levy was obviously a window dressing move to try to get people to feel good about the team again, bring back the glory days, but that was just smoke and mirrors. Really, it didn't hold much weight, and pretty much Jauron, Levy resulted in Jauron. He was the guy who talked Ralph into bringing Jauron there, a loser coach, who had one winning season, who just, we all know the facts about him, but, obviously Levy is to blame for a lot of this, and that's just the facts. I know that's sacrilege to say amongst a lot of Bills fans, but it's the truth. As far as the team goes, the most important thing is that Edwards can play well, and I hope that's the case. I hope Edwards can just, steady himself, and that I think that comes from just, him seeing all those bumps last season, and that was to be expected at some point. I think that it was definitely awesome to see the first 6 weeks of the season, barring the concussion, but just his body work in those 6 games was amazing, and then he kind of hit a bad patch, and there again was, onus was somewhat on him, of course, but as a young player and as a young quarterback, you hope the coaching staff and those guys can steady him, but they're putting him in shotgun on 3rd and 1. They're, empty backfields. Just the kind of play calls and positions that they were putting him in were just ridiculous. So you just got to hope that they can get things rectified in some fashion. As we are Bills fans, we got to hope for that. And it comes down to the team, and I'm just going to go through the needs of the team at offense, defense, and special teams. And we'll start with offense first. And like I stated before, it's the same needs over and over again. They still need a tight end. You play in Buffalo, you play in cold, windy weather, as we've seen the last few weeks of the season, past few weeks of several seasons. You need an intermediate receiver that's going to create mismatch problems. I mean, you need that. It's a must, and Buffalo has not had that in their offense. God knows how long. Reem Small was a nice tight end, but he's not, going to make you forget about Metzelars or McKellar. guys like that. They need a tight end that's going to do something in the middle of the field. A tight end is you ask anybody who coaches, what's the one position on offense that can hurt a 3-4 defense, and that's the tight end. Creates a lot of problems for 3-4 defenses. If you watch any Patriot games, you'll see the tight end. A team that has a good tight end can really hurt the Patriots down the middle of the field, and that's just an area of the field you don't see the Bills throw or threaten. It allows safeties to cheat far over on Evans. Evans isn't able to get any one-on-ones, despite the fact there's still not a number 2 on the other side of Evans, and that's another thing that kills the Bills is the lack of receiving options. Evans is a nice receiver, and he puts up great numbers for what he has to deal with. Inconsistency of the quarterbacks in terms of turnover at the quarterback position, different players playing the position, inconsistency in play. I think he does a great job. Reed is a nice receiver. He's a nice third down receiver. Within that spot, he's very good. But in terms of putting him on the outside and making him play number 2, it's not a good position for him. He's better when he's matched up against the safeties and the linebackers underneath. He's phenomenal there. I really like Steven Johnson. He's a guy that you could definitely see him being number 2, number 3 next year in a lot of instances. I think he really came on at the end of the season, and you can argue he was their 3rd best receiver all year, despite Hardy, despite Roscoe Parrish, who is a horrible wide receiver, runs horrible routes. He could say all he wants, how he wants the ball. You got to get open first, and he's a fast guy, but he doesn't create much mismatch problems. It doesn't create a lot of space. A lot of these guys have to be schemed open as per getting open on their own. And again, the tight end position is non-existent in Buffalo's offense, and I think you have to have that position. It's very critical, especially I think the fact that it would complement Edwards' game so nicely. You see Edwards' game, throws great intermediate passes. I think a tight end would be phenomenal for him, but they got to get one. Jermaine Grisham looked great last night in the national championship game. I wouldn't mind seeing him in Buffalo. I think he would be really, really nice. But they still need center. They desperately need a center. There's some veteran centers on the market. There's some nice centers coming out in the draft. I would definitely look into trying to look into 2 of those guys. Trying to bring in a free agent and draft a guy to get groom him. Get him time at guard. The offensive line, I think, needs to be a little lighter, a little bit more athletic. Be able to use a screen game, trap a little bit more. They just kind of bull ahead, and they're generally not the most athletic guys across the ball. They need a fullback, desperately need a fullback. It's not a big position in the league, but again, where Buffalo plays, they're going to have 3-4 games a year where they play in adverse conditions, and they need a guy who can catch a swing pass out of the backfield, a guy who can pick up a yard. Sometimes you can sneak him the ball on a 3rd and short, and they desperately need a fullback. That's on offense. Obviously Edwards is the key, though. He's got to play more consistently. Those are just the facts. And on defense, it's pass rush. I'll sit here and say it again and again and again. Pass rush, pass rush, pass rush. McKelvin, they needed a corner. They knew Greer was going to be a free agent this year. McGee's going to be a free agent at the end of next year, so they needed a corner. And a lot of the things one of the big things that McKelvin was knocked on was his lack of ball skills. I think he showed great ball skills. And he took his bumps, but I think he showed a lot of good ball skills. I think he's going to be a really good corner. He showed the ability to make the big play and take the ball to the house, kickoff, return. He's phenomenal. I think I personally thought he was better than Leon Washington. I really did. Leon did the punt and the kickoff, but McKelvin, I think, was better than him. I watched both of them play equally, and I think McKelvin was better in terms of just his ability to just every return was at least a 30-yard return, and also I didn't see teams short kicking to the Jets. I saw them short kicking to the Bills, and usually Fred Jackson was the up guy who was going to take that. But onto the rest of the defense, the pass rush is critical. It's so critical. And you see the best teams in the league now, and those are the guys who are in the playoffs. They can all rush the passer. You can all make a quarterback uncomfortable. And Buffalo just can't put pressure. They can't. It's not sacks so much. It's pressure. It's making a quarterback uncomfortable, making him move his feet, making him run around, and do things he doesn't want to do. And just Buffalo just can't do that. You know, Kelsey and Denny's a nice backup, but Kelsey for a starter, the money he makes he's awful. He's just awful, and just doesn't just kind of stagnant. Kind of sits there and hand fights with the tackle. Just doesn't do much. They're okay against the run. Schobel coming back. We'll see how he comes back off this injury. How's he gonna make it back off this whatever phatic injury? It's gonna be an interesting thing to see. They need to address that in free agency or the draft. They have to. Pass rush is and I would say go too deep. You know, get yourself two guys who have reputations as pass rushers out of college, and we're going to hear names like Julius Peppers, Terrell Suggs in free agency. They're going to command a lot of money. I know Carolina also has Jordan Gross, who's a free agent. He's consensus All Pro today. They named him, so he's going to get a huge contract somewhere. So or with Carolina, I don't know if they'll be able to afford to pay both those guys and the kind of signing bonuses they're going to want. But if Buffalo's going to make a big splash in free agency, that's the best place to go. Pass rusher. You got to get a pass rusher, whether it be Suggs or Peppers, and put your hand in the dirt and just go kill the quarterback. If you draft a guy, the same thing for him. Put your hand in the dirt, go kill the quarterback. They need the linebacking core is definitely shaky. I'm not sold on Puz yet. I know they're trying to talk him up, saying he was in his basically his rookie year after being hurt in his real rookie year, but just didn't make enough plays. We'll see if he's more comfortable next year. I personally think he's more of an outside linebacker than a middle. Crowell seems receptive to coming back to Buffalo. Got to see if that knee's healthy, and if it is, I wouldn't mind seeing him back. I think you could say in a lot of ways Buffalo was missing their best linebacker this year, Crowell. I know Mitchell played well, but I think Crowell is probably, when healthy, he's their best linebacker if he comes back. But pass rushing is critical on the back end of the defense. Greer's gone. They're not. Look at Buffalo's history with high-priced corners who are leaving. They're not going to pay for them. Clemens, Winfield, Greer. If they're not going to pay those two guys, they're definitely not paying Greer. And those are two guys. Clemens was a Pro Bowler. McGee's a good corner. Ubody's coming back. That'll help the secondary. Whitner. Anytime I say Dante Whitner's name now, I'm just going to say hello te nada. That's all I'm going to say. That's how, he's going to be a free safety. I mean, an 8th overall pick for a free safety. Again, they're trying to put a great spin on it on BuffaloBills.com, trying to always changing positions, finding his niche, being able to make more big plays. They had the nerve, I don't know who it was. I don't know if it was Chris Brown or one of the other players they put Ed Reed and Dante Whitner's name in the same breath, and I was like, that should be sacrilege. You should be arrested for doing something like that. Ed Reed's made more big plays in one game than Dante Whitner's ever made in his whole career to this point. It was just like, what? You're kidding. No way. It should not even be in the same breath, those two players. But, who knows? Maybe it is. Maybe he can make more plays back there. I mean, he's a good hitter. Definitely a much more of an intimidator than anybody else they had back there. A little bit better instincts. I mean, Coe Simpson should be released, especially after his arrest. Fucking ridiculous. Anybody named Simpson should not be allowed to play in a Bills uniform. Going on the record saying that now. You should not be allowed to play in a Bills uniform if your last name is Simpson. Should not be allowed. But that's pretty much it. Special teams, I think they have to at least bring in a kicker to challenge Lindell for that job. He missed too many kicks. He's inconsistent. I mean, he had this long-standing streak of inside 40. Then he started blowing that later in the year. Mormon's still good. Obviously, I don't think he's the best of the league anymore. I think there's guys that have passed him, like Cyphers, Leckler's still a great punter. There's a few others that are good, but I think he's still top 10. Kick return wise, I think Buffalo, as long as April's a special team coach, is always going to be up there. They do, it's one area they do a really good job in. But defense is pass rush, being able to make quarterbacks uncomfortable. It's all it's about. It makes everything easier for the other guys on defense. So it's pretty much it, Bills fans. We're going to get free agency in about a month here. Hopefully we're going to see some good things. It's always an exciting time of the year. You get the bad taste out of this horrible season out of our mouths. Just we all know that Jauron's coming back. You know how I feel about it. I know how you feel about it. Just hopefully that he's put in as few positions as possible to make decisions that could affect or not affect the game, but too aggressive when they should be conservative, or too conservative when they should be aggressive. Just the list goes on and on. So with this guy, but again, with any luck, hopefully Trent, I think if Trent's play steadies and he can return to form that he did for just basically half of last season, and just translate it into all of next season, or a good portion of next season, I think that they can win some games. They have to be able to compete in the East. They have to be able to, I mean, they weren't blown out in the East in any of the games, but they were definitely 0-6. That's unacceptable. You're not going anywhere doing that, anywhere. So hopefully they can get some better personnel in there and rectify some things in some key positions, and we'll come back in a month or so and talk about it. Until then, I've tried to take my mind off the Bills and just try to enjoy football again. Really, just watch the playoffs and enjoy those. My Gators won a national championship last night. I was tremendously happy about that. Huge Gator fan, and they make it fun for me to watch football, so I figured focus on them, focus on the playoffs, and just enjoy football, and then wait till free agency, wait till the draft talk starts heating up, and then get back into the Bills a little more. But we'll see what happens. Hopefully, we'll be able to do some good things in free agency and the draft. You gotta step in ship sometime. Hopefully they can get somebody that's a few players that's worthwhile. So until then, Bills fans, you have a good one. Take care. All the comments and messages, thank you. Just comment away and we'll see what you guys think, where they need to go.